All right, everyone, welcome into episode 190. Yes, we are 10 away from 200. I'm Nikhil, live as always from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil is Gus Tomazelli. Gus, how are you doing on this July evening? It's a bit rainy outside here. Hopefully, it's a lot nicer there.
Yeah, it's nice. Little chilly willy. It's one of those winter but feel like fall days here in the city of Americana. Of course, in terms of sports, it's very heated. I'm going to talk about later how the team of Americana is not doing so well, but currently I'm watching some American baseball, Major League Baseball. Bottom of the nine, actually, great game down in Philadelphia, two apiece, 2-2, Red Sox and the Phillies. But still a lot to talk about, and let's go for it.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we're kind of now in that middle time of the year where they really only have baseball, not a ton else happening. So we're definitely going to head into a lot more previews and stuff as we get ready to ramp up for football season. But first, there are some big off the field news going on, and perhaps some of the bigger controversies in sports right now revolve around the WNBA. And yeah, when it comes to the WNBA, I guess it feels like the ratio of the off the court controversy to actual on court product, it feels like for us has been 90 to 10. Like we've barely talked about the on court product, but definitely the league is just interesting to talk about off the court. It always seems to be in some sort of controversy.
It always feels like the headlines makes it more interesting than the games itself, and for sports league that's never good because it feels like the NBA, WNBA feeds off racial division, in financial inequality, and even geographical dispute, like Midwest versus you know the South. I mean, it feels a league that the sport itself, like you never seen like, oh, the highlights, or check it out display. No, it's always look what this player said, and the, look what the players argued. It's always argument over highlights.
Exactly. And I don't think that's ultimately the most healthy way. Now, granted, I think any healthy league is going to have a lot of off the field, off the court drama, right? Like you need storylines to keep people invested. But I don't know if, especially for a league that's trying to take advantage of a unique moment, right? Like we were watching the WNBA get by far its biggest star in the history of its game in Caitlin Clark. And it feels like ever since she's joined the league, it's just been one controversy after another controversy. And you just have to wonder, right? Because, I heard someone make this point about how the target demo for the WNBA for its long term success should be dads and their daughters, right? Like, because that, for girls out there, right? The WNBA is, going to be highly inspiring. There's all these women achieving at a very high level athletically. And, you know, for dads, that can marry their love for sports while also giving their daughter something to aspire to be. But like we're seeing just constantly all this crazy stuff happen. Now, obviously, this particular situation is not really unique, right? Like we've seen strikes in all kinds of sports across sports. And obviously, WNBA players feel like they're getting underpaid because let's be real, they don't get paid a ton, right? Especially when you compare them to other sports. Now, there is going to be, they're currently in the middle of contract negotiations with the new CBA. And right now, they're being offered, I believe, a 9% pay raise, which would be fairly significant. But the WNBA players want a lot more than that. They don't think it's enough. Now, we don't have to sit here and relitigate the financial woes of the WNBA, right? Like, the league has never made a profit, ever in its history. It's been subsidized by the NBA. And there's a reason why the NBA players make as much money as they do because that league makes a ton of money. But if you're domestically and internationally, I mean, more people watch the NBA now in China than do in the US. Like, that's why when people are like, "Oh, the NBA, the ratings are falling apart in the US," you know, should the NBA freak out? Not really, because the NBA at this point is a global game. And for the WNBA, right? Like, there's a lot more room for them to grow domestically than the NBA because the WNBA is such a young league. Like the WNBA is only like a year or two older than I am as a person, right? Like it's still a baby league. And you're just now getting a true transcendent superstar in Caitlin Clark that matters to people who are not traditionally women's basketball fans. So, yes, this is a moment where the tide can lift all the boats. Uh, but then you have situations like Kelsey Plum, who's a very good player. I've liked her since she was in college at Washington. She kind of took a dig at because apparently they had an All-Star game over the weekend. I mean, I didn't watch it, but apparently they divided the players by like Team Clark versus I believe it was Team Wilson, if I'm not mistaken, for Aja Wilson. And apparently Plum was upset that the Team Clark players weren't wearing the "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirts before the game. It's just kind of like, I guess it should be every player's choice whether or not they join side by side. And granted, and that's not an unusual situation either. Like, NASCAR drivers historically were like this. Were like, if they wanted to take a stand against a sanctioned body, they would all take a stand against a sanctioned body. Look at the 1969 Spring Talladega race, the first ever race at Talladega, where they were upset with the tire. They were scared that they were going to die, basically, if they went out there and raced. So none of them raced except for one guy. And he went out there and raced. And then the next race, he got wrecked because basically all the drivers were like, "You crossed our picket line." So, like, I get that from that extent. But I just don't know if tactically from the WNBA, if this is really the time to have a public spat like this, because you have a golden chance. This might be
What
your golden chance to become a legitimately profitable sports league in this country.
what I want you to understand is that you make an argument, that sentence, pay us what you owe us. What do they actually owe? Like, like if I would understand that protest if there was any WNBA franchise that was not paying players. They're like, not paying salaries. I would embrace that product. I would embrace that protest.
Right.
But
Right now, the average WNBA salary is $102,000.
that's a decent living. Like, and another point, like, out of the four major American sports: football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. Four American sports, right? Those are American sports.
Right.
The WNBA is the only viable league for women, out of those four sports to play. The softball league, the women's softball league. You don't see the pro softball league complaining about it. There's no women's football league. There's no women's hockey league.
I mean, you got
So
NWSL. I mean, but I don't know what those players make compared to
yeah,
those players have way more fame from the U.S. women's team than they do from the women's soccer league.
no, I didn't even count soccer. Like, if you count soccer, okay, fine. Like that's a fifth sport. I only put the four American sports. You know,
I mean, frankly, the sports that where women actually make money when we look at sports, outside of like Caitlin Clark, right? Tennis. Look at the Williams sisters. Look at some of the other famous tennis players that we have seen. They've made money, or like even like a golf, for example. But like really tennis, or like gymnastics, like all the money that those that like a Simone Biles has made off of endorsements.
but uh, uh, and I know it's kind of harsh to say like that, but you know, and of course there's a world debate because here in Brazil too, there's oftentimes a discussion between the disparity between the players in the Brazilian League First Division, what do they play, and the Women's Brazilian League, what do they play in soccer. But women tend to be more paid for their, you know, body attributes. And I'm saying, like, for example, like compare what a women model paid compared to a man model. You know, Giselle Bündchen, being paid way more than the top male model, and that's the reality in the world in terms of what compensation of work between men and women.
Right, and I think everyone always wants more, you know? Like, I could use to have more, and I think you could use to have more. I think we
Of course.
all always think we could have more money for whatever reason. Um, but, we live in a time of high inflation where most Americans are struggling to make a paycheck. Most Brazilians are struggling to go
Oh
paycheck.
yeah, and
Most
it's
people
gonna be
across the world are.
it's gonna be, and it might be even worse thing too. Uh, Political feud between our presidents. Thank you so much, Lula and Trump.
That's not ideal at all, I am
Uh,
sorry.
I, I I I think it was funny. I know we're getting a little bit out of our main topic, sports, but a little. I mean, we having this podcast for like almost 4 years, and for the first time ever, our both of our countries in the middle of a, we can say, feud, a weirdly feud, where the U.S. president is involving in a matter of a Brazilian political dispute, or even criminally, between the Supreme Court, the former president, the current president. What a mess.
Right, and yeah, it didn't feel like Biden and Bolsonaro. I mean, yes, those two are very different from one another, but like it didn't feel like they butted heads quite like this. You know, what we're seeing with Trump and Lula now, I understandably so. Trump and Lula are they basically have nothing in common. You know, like just I mean, they're literally nothing in common. So it's going to be hard. It's hard for me to foresee either one of those guys coming together on literally anything.
Yeah, and you see the Bolsonaro's son in the U.S. kind of lobbying it for this involvement of the U.S. diplomacy and U.S. State Department into a Brazilian matter. I'm not saying you know it's the right decision, the wrong decision, but of course it affects our lives. And there's going to be a 50% tariffs on Brazilian products in US, so it might make things expensive for American in terms of Brazilian products like coffee, orange juice, and it might have the opposite effect for us, in terms of electronics, So it's
Right, and it's just like it's hard to keep up with what's tariffed and what's not tariffed because it changes
yeah,
every single day. Um, it's very very interesting times we're living in for sure. But I'm curious to see if he gets more involved or less involved in Brazil. Because I mean, let's be real. I mean, I think the president has other countries probably more worried about on a day to day basis than Brazil, like in Iran or what's going on in Israel and Gaza and all those places. But um,
and even other topics. I mean, one moment Trump is focusing on his relationship with Brazil. In another moment, he's demanding name changing with an NFL franchise.
right, and we're gonna get to that here in just a little while. Yeah, we see. This is what happens, guys, when we don't really have a ton of actual sports going on. We're gonna dive headfirst into the political controversies and get
Yeah,
our hands chopped off. But no,
yeah,
that's what we love to do around here.
yeah. I guess that's something Alexandre de Moraes are not gonna get mad at me, because I mean I'm not gonna comment on his actions or of what his decision in the Supreme Court. I mean that's out of my league. I'm just pointing out things that are happening, not making judgment off of
Right.
it.
I mean, and then again, I'm not scared to state my opinion. So granted, like I guess there's a professional line I have to maintain as a news reporter. Granted, I don't deal directly with the president, right? Because I'm dealing with folks here locally. Um, so I watch my words a lot more carefully whenever I'm talking about local politics versus national politics. And because in national politics, you are just there's so much more complex, much more chaotic, and that's and the thing overall just about social media in general. Everyone, makes everything so black and white, and no political issue is ever black and white, right? Like nothing is ever that simple,
Oh
and
yeah, no. I mean, right now, I think that this in the way that the Bolsonaro family is bringing the U.S. to a Brazilian matter, it feels a little bit. A journalist made an interesting point. If this was the other way around, if for example like Trump's son was involving in a Brazilian matter, or like or something, for example, involved in a or for like a in terms of involvement in a foreign policy, that might be up for imprisonment. But it's and
like how would they get arrested? Like if Bolsonaro is living in Florida and he's trying to influence things in Brazil, how could
no, he's in Brazil. He's in
okay
Brasilia.
back to Brazil?
He went back to Brazil like 2020, mid of 2023. He went
Oh,
back.
so he's going to try to pull a Trump and try to like win in non-consecutive terms.
He cannot run. He is blocked by the Supreme Electoral
Okay,
Tribunal.
okay, and then that's what Trump's getting involved in.
Yeah, because right now Bolsonaro is uh, in a trial for his involvement on the attempted coup of January 8th, which is the Brazilian version of January 6th. And the trial, the there's the ongoing trial. He already made him his appeal. He already appeared in court, made his deposition with Alexandre de Moraes. There were many funny moments. Even Bolsonaro even invite Alexandre de Moraes to be his running mate for 2026. That was really funny.
So I guess I couldn't. Does it? It sounds a little bit like a kangaroo court on this because is it all appointees from Lula or like does the president there like? Because I know here in America, right? Like the president appoints federal judges, Supreme Court justices.
Uh, yeah, yeah, but Alexandre de Moraes, funny enough, was not appointed by Lula. He was appointed by former President Temer, the one that got in office after Lula's Lula's appointee Dilma Rousseff was impeached. Then Temer got in office, and then the Teresa Vasque died in a weird. The Supreme Court Justice Teresa Vasque died in a weird plane crash. And Alexandre de Moraes, which he was known for being a São Paulo state's attorney, got appointed. At first, conservatives loved that pick, but then ended up hating it, especially because of all this, battle against Bolsonaro, and then during his, especially after the second half of his uh, term, ended up having a feud with Alexandre de Moraes, having a lot of speeches against him. And after the Brazilian version of January 6th, which was on January 8th, then things really escalated, and now uh, by the we have a superior electoral superior tribunal. It's like a election court which only rules on things about elections. He cannot run. He cannot for any position: president, governor, senator,
Can you not run for
represent.
mayor of a town?
Not even a mayor, not even a city council. He cannot run for any position in power. And
Dang.
and funny enough, today he went to Congress to talk to his, base, his, the representatives from his party, the PL, which called the Liberal Party, but we can call conservatives. But he couldn't appear in a press conference because he's blocked by Alexandre Moraes to be on any broadcasting, anything social media live. So he
See, and that's the
cannot.
thing. and that's what could never happen in America. And then that's why Trump was able to, stay relevant, right? It's because you can't take away his First Amendment rights.
Yeah,
Well,
in Brazil,
still, you don't have that.
yeah, we don't have that literally. Yeah, so yeah, things are, and I guess that's why you know America's getting involved, especially Trump said in his letter to President Lula that, of course, the witch hunt against Bolsonaro and also the involvement of the Brazilian Supreme Court against the social media companies. What happened with X and Elon Musk a couple of years ago with fines and even blocking the social media in the country, and now Alexandre Moraes and the other Supreme Court justices got their American visas revoked, and they literally cannot even go to the U.S. or make business with U.S. companies.
Dang. I'll never forget having to send you Twitter screenshots because it was blocked.
Yeah, do you remember that time?
That was hilarious. I mean, I'm just like, oh, I was like, oh, I gotta send this to Gus. Like, oh crap, I forgot. Twitter, he can't see it because it's banned.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got unbanned, but I don't know for how long. And
right.
just that's why I love sports here in Brazil, because things politically are very chaotic right now.
Exactly. And hey, that's what sports are. It's an escape from the politics and all of the other things. But the WNBA makes that impossible because every time we talk about this freaking sport, it's about politics.
Yeah,
Because, like, and,
I
and that's kind of part of the problem. Make
oh,
the sport more interesting in that way, so we're not sitting here talking about politics every time we talk about your sport.
like it's I think it's funny that Donald Trump it still hasn't made any comment or any political statement, against or for WNBA players. I mean, it's a matter of time Trump get
So,
involved.
do you think Donald Trump's ever actually watched an NBA or a WNBA game?
No, I don't say watch the game, but made a comment about, oh, I think there's something Trump's gonna say like, oh my God, WNBA are brats, and it's so unfair the way they treat Caitlin Clark or something like that. I can see Trump saying something like that.
I could actually, and I could see like a Clay Travis influencing him to say something like that too.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for Trump to say something to the effect of like Caitlin Clark should dump the WNBA and find her own league because she's
yeah,
more valuable than the league itself. Which honestly, I don't think I could argue with. I'm pretty sure, I feel pretty certain that Caitlin Clark would be more valuable than a WNBA if she founded her own league.
what's funny is that, do you think playing overseas, maybe, I don't know, like
No,
Europe, even
she,
Brazil?
I mean, Caitlin Clark is uniquely like American, especially in the Midwest. Like you go to Iowa, you go to places like
Yeah,
that.
that's fair.
Caitlin Clark is such an icon because she's basically like that. She's like that. She's that mantra of like any girl anywhere, even from like a place like Iowa, could be amazing, right? And that's the thing about Caitlin Clark, and that's why so many people, especially young girls, love her because of that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and we talk about um, women, women in sports and the financial gap. One thing that NIL kind of brought was the ability of women of being, making money in sport. And we can say, oh, oh, how about Levy Dunn? uh, is are people paying her for endorsements because of her body or because of her sports? Doesn't matter. She's a woman in sports making money.
I mean, you're right. I mean, granted, I don't know how much sports she does at this point. I mean, I know it feels like she's around the coattails at this point of Paul Skeens. I mean, because obviously they're in a relationship together, and you know,
I mean, they're a sports power couple, but it's
well, she needs to get him out of Pittsburgh as ASAP so he can actually like start winning some games.
that's fair.
Yeah. Um, okay. So two other quick NBA notes. I also just want to say Caitlin Clark is still hurt. I just seems like I feel like this is a cursed year for her on the court because when she's been there, she's been good. But like, man, Just too many injuries this year. And really, and again, that hurts the product of the WNBA because people want to tune in to watch her. But then there's no her to tune in to watch because she's hurt. So now we're all sitting here talking about all the other stuff that I think holds the WNBA back. Um, back on the NBA on the other side, real quick. Two quick notes I wanted to bring up here. Chris Paul just will not let it go. He will not retire. He's entering year 21 and is returning to the Clippers. So I
What
guess he's still serviceable, but what's the point here?
I mean, don't you feel bad for him about that because he, the true opportunity for him being an NBA champion was 2017. That Houston Rockets series, that was his moment.
Yes,
That was his prime, and then he ended up falling apart. Of course, he had some notable moments, but it was a decline. And of course, on the back of his mind, they always gonna remember that infamous, veto trade that he was going to the Lakers and he was not going to the Lakers. That will haunt his career forever.
100%, 100%. But hey, he's had a long, great career, but no rings, which really stings for him. Also, Marcus Smart to the Lakers. I think that's actually a really good signing. He's obviously really, really good on defense. Will help out Luca a lot in the backcourt. It seems like LeBron is probably still returning to the Lakers at this point. So, of course, the Lakers are making some moves too with big men. Because I mean, last year's probably the last year you've got with LeBron at this point. So I just don't know how much longer can LeBron actually go. you know, at this point, and
It's
play at a decent level.
I mean, it's impressive the longevity of his career. Of course, the goal conversation, which is I hate this kind of this discussion. There's always that 6 for 6, 6 for 6. Okay, Michael Jordan won all the NBA finals he went to, but a career in a league is not always defined by how many finals you won. It's the longevity of your career, the records that you beat. Like if if you if you compare numbers, all numbers, but you change the sport from basketball to baseball, I think LeBron James would be more revered than Michael Jordan. But I think in basketball, it's more rings conversation than accomplishment conversations. I think, for example, in baseball, it's the other way around.
Right, and there's no and people don't add any context at all when it comes to basketball discussions because, for one thing, Michael Jordan was favored in all of his finals. Every single one of the finals appearances, the Chicago Bulls were favored. Compare that to
Oh
LeBron,
07, oh 07, like LeBron took a okay-ish Cavaliers against the dynasty of the Spurs.
right? And the Warriors, they had to sign KD after the 3-1 collapse to make it literally impossible to beat them for the following two seasons.
I
Like no LeBron team was ever going to beat the 17 or 18 Warriors.
I think the only season and the only finals LeBron can be kind of pointed at as a failure was the 2011-2012 against the Dallas Mavericks.
Correct.
That's the only one. That's the only one.
He played like garbage in those finals, 100%.
That's the only one. Because the other one, even the one they lost to the Spurs, I mean, what a team they have. Kawhi Leonard on their prime, Tim Duncan on their prime, Manu Ginobili on their prime.
Well, I don't know if I can call Duncan at his prime still at that point. I mean, I think he retired right after that. Like
Yeah,
that,
but he was still a good player.
really good,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah, and okay, we can say like Kawhi Leonard on their prime because even Kawhi got that MVP out of their final.
Right. The Kawhi is just so weird because like his prime quote unquote is like 2 or 3 random seasons over a decade, right? You got that season in 2014, of course, the legendary Raptors run in 2019. And then in between these random runs, like even this past year, he was really good. But then in between, he does nothing. But he just randomly shows up like the groundhog once every couple of years and boom, You know, like he's incredible.
Yeah. So I think in terms of accomplishments, the career, of course, uh, when you're still an active player, you tend to see more uh, judgment career compared to a player that is retired. Because when a player is actually retired, you tend to kind of glamorize it more. Because people tend to forget Michael Jordan did not stop his basketball career in 1998. Was way later than that.
Yeah.
Like in the people back in their minds, they tend to think, "Oh, Michael Jordan stopped playing after beating the Jazz in the 1998 NBA Finals." No, he continued play. He played for a couple more seasons down in Washington, and people tend to forget about that.
Oh, 100%. And LeBron is playing at a higher level now than Michael Jordan playing in his 40s. I mean, just that's just facts. Or what I think Chris Paul's going to do. He's going to be backing up James Harden too, for what it's worth. And man, does James Harden have any other opportunities left really to win a title? That's
I,
another
I mean,
question.
what a Clippers, squad. I mean, is you can smell the desperation of NBA rings on that squad. Chris Paul, James Harden, uh, Paul George.
I
I
mean,
mean, it's literally NBA rings desperation.
yeah. And yes, I know they've got a pretty new arena now, but they're always going to be the second team in Los Angeles. So, you know, that's just facts on that. So anyway, it should be an interesting basketball year in LA for sure. Now, all right, let's go get our I'm gonna go get myself in trouble here. Let's talk about Donald Trump. Okay.
Oh boy! I guess I thought we were enough talking about him. I guess he's always back.
Absolutely. So anyway, he went on True Social today. I still have not created an account on True Social.
Me
Um,
too.
um I end up seeing all of his posts anyway after the fact. But anyway, he is demanding that the Washington Commanders turn the clock back, head back to what they used to be called in the Washington Redskins. Meanwhile, the DC mayor, Muriel Bowser, I believe, she's like, "Look, I'm focused on trying to get the Commanders back to downtown Washington to try to get a new stadium to get them out of the suburbs. I'm not focused on what Trump's going to say." So, and of course, obviously, DC, a very, very Democratic city. So, of course, you got the Democratic mayor here. They're not going to try to, engage with the president. Uh, but should the Commanders return to the Redskins, right? Because like we've seen, it's a weird situation with the Native American nicknames because obviously the Redskins changed. You had the Cleveland Indians, they changed to the Guardians. But then you have like the Florida State Seminoles, they're still doing the tomahawk chop, and the Atlanta Braves and the Kansas City Chiefs are still doing that, it's funny. I saw there was an NBC News report a few years ago that claimed that Atlanta had stopped doing it. I'm like, no, the Atlanta is still doing the tomahawk chop. And of course, this was
I love the tomahawk chop. So many times I went, even as a Mets fan, root for the New York Mets in Atlanta. I could not resist myself. It's one of the most cool chants in American sports.
it is 100%. So I mean, it's inconsistent, right? And this all goes back kind of to the 2020 Black Lives Matter situation, post George Floyd, and that's when you saw the Redskins go away. And I think too, honestly, Daniel Snyder never helped things when it came to Washington. Like, I think if you had a more positive owner and that wasn't Daniel Schneider, Washington probably doesn't end up in this situation because you could have had someone that could have made the team more endearing to the team, to the fans that were watching them. But no, you had literally one of the worst owners in professional sports. I mean, there's a reason why the Kansas City Chiefs haven't been asked because it doesn't feel like they're constantly flaunting.
I mean, the Hunt family is one of the most influential and beloved families in sports ownership.
100%. But I think Washington was in a very different place. Now, of course, Washington has new owners now, Josh Harris, and the Commanders last year went all the way to the NFC title game. and they've got Jane Daniels. They've got so much momentum now. Um, so, to what President Trump is asking for here, it's actually really funny. I saw a tweet earlier from 2013 because apparently back in 2013, then President Obama had asked Washington to change their name from the Redskins then. And Trump was like, "Hey, stop focusing on like what the Washington Redskins are called and go back to your job." So it's kind of funny now that we're sitting here 12 years later and Donald Trump is president and doing the exact same thing. But
And not, I think not only with the NFL team in Washington, the MLB Cleveland baseball team here, he wanted to go back to the original name too.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
mean, let's
he
be real. Let's be real. Is it? It's not natural to call these teams the Commanders and the Guardians. Like, I mean, I've gotten used to it at this point, but like those names don't really, I guess, hold tradition. They don't really hold weight like their old names did, right? Now, I guess the question you have to ask is, you know, are these names really offensive to Native American communities? And, I can't answer that question. I'm not Native American. I don't really know really any Native Americans, because a lot of those reservations are out west. And of course, there's all kinds of really complicated history when it comes to that with the Trail of Tears. And and of course, reservations now um, are some of the most sociologically disadvantaged places in the entire country to live. Um, some of the highest poverty rates, some of the highest alcoholism rates, some of the lowest life expectancy. I mean, it's very rough. So, with all that being said, with all that context, you know, I guess there's two parts to answer this. One, would you want to see Washington go back to the Redskins name? Cleveland to go back to the Indians? But two, is it at this point, is it something that we really should spend time arguing about? And I think that's the more important question because I don't know if this really is a conversation that there's so much right that we have to work on as a world, as a country. You know, I don't know if this is truly a debate at this point that's really worth a lot of excess energy because I mean things change, things don't stay the same. Um, and even if something was great for a long time, maybe you need to change it to something else. Oh, guys, it's weird because
yeah,
I understand why it was changed.
yeah. It's it of course, during the beginning of what we call the pandemic era, things politically and sociologically exacerbated. Of course, the tragic moment of George Floyd made things even more heated, and through that, of course, the Cleveland baseball team and the Washington so-called football the NFL Washington team and the MLB Cleveland team decided to pander to those demands. But of course, in the back of their fan minds, of course, they weren't asked. It was imposed, and of course, they accepted it. They're still fans of both teams. But as you point out perfectly, there's no ways for us to judge the using their names of a community there's sometimes in disadvantage in the United States of America. And in Brazil, I feel like there's no uh, similarity to that because the name of the teams are like normally names of people or even communities, but there's no. I guess the only team we can compare is Guarani because of the tribe Guarani in the past, but there's nothing quite like that. So I, I mean, of course, I think Trump wants to pander to that because he saw those changes as something that affect the cultural war between those two sides, and he wants the names back as a cultural win for him. It's like I got the name back because
Right.
all
I mean,
about the
especially
cultural war.
and him trying to block the stadium deal too. And that also goes to another. Conversation about the conversation between the federal government and DC, because DC is completely ran by the federal government. It's not its own state. It doesn't have a congressional representative. It only has an observer in Congress. So basically, every change, every decision that DC ultimately makes, especially a major one, ultimately has to get approved by the federal government. So,
And
Trump.
the mayor and the mayor. I mean, and the mayor is, in terms of this moment, is kind of dealing to what she can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously from a political perspective for her, I mean, this is impossible, right? Because obviously, right, like when we look at the Democratic side of the aisle, I mean, there's you're not going to find many Democrats that like Donald Trump. Let's just be honest, are willing to even be, relatively impartial towards him. So, from the DC mayor perspective, they're just not going, like, you can't be seen as like placating the president. But at the same time, right, like this could be a massive revenue generator for Washington to get the NFL team back, to get those games back. I mean, look what the Nationals, in the Capitals and having them in the city, like that's big. Like every other team in Washington plays in the District of Columbia, except for the Washington Commanders right now, who play in Landover, Maryland, in the worst stadium in the league that's constantly falling apart, constantly having issues.
So bad to arrive. I mean, I've been once. It was so complicated to get there.
Exactly. But get Washington back to DC. We need football being played steps from the Capitol, steps from the White House, because that's where they belong. That's where Washington belongs. Um, and I just hope that egos will subside here. Because, I mean, once again, for the president, there are much more serious issues I want him focused on
Yeah.
than whether or not what the team of Washington is called, because I don't care. Like I will watch the Washington whatevers play, because I mean I have Jaden Daniels on my fantasy team and Terry McLaurin, and they better re-sign Terry McLaurin now. I will be much more mad if they don't re-sign Terry McLaurin over whatever decision to make over the name. I mean, I'm just being real here, but in any case, it's just another. Uh, in my opinion, this is another controversy for the sake of controversy.
It's again the cultural war in America that Trump's definitely want to get involved because he feels like he wants to be a part of, one side that wants to win against the other side.
100%. Does someone really have to win the culture war? I mean, let's be real. I mean, and I will say there are certain issues where someone should win and someone needs to win, because there are certain things being pushed by either side of this conflict that are objectively really, really bad.
Yeah,
Um,
especially in the 20th century, Jackie Robinson, you know,
right.
Define. Those were culture wars that needed to be win because of how bad things were. But I don't see that as something like that.
Right. And like when you have situations where people are helpless and you have someone trying to impose themselves on a space that shouldn't be in that space. Um, those are the times where where the culture would need to go in a certain direction. But in any case, I don't really think it matters what the Washington football team is called. So in any case, I'll call them whatever they're right now, and right now they're the Commanders. So it's kind of that on that. Um, Okay, next topic on the NFL here. Will Levis is out for the season because he is getting shoulder surgery for an injury he suffered last season. Kind of interesting he decided to wait this late in the summer to do it. Some people are seeming to think that perhaps this is strategic on his part to be able to avoid saying he lost a quarterback battle in training camp to Cam Ward, because Cam Ward was going to start. Like, he's your first overall pick. And we all know how bad Will Levis is as a quarterback. He was going to start. But to me, for Will Levis, I mean, this is probably it for him in Tennessee. Like, I don't think you're ever going to see him take another snap in Nashville, because I mean, everyone, he's just so unlikable. And like, literally every Titans fan I've talked to today has celebrated this news. And like, and I don't want to say I'm celebrating it, because like, I don't want to celebrate someone getting hurt. and someone going through surgery and having to go through this situation, like that's not great. And Will Levis is still a person at the end of the day. He's got a quarterback with dreams and he wants to be really, really good. Now, granted, I have been very brutal. I've been very rough on Will Levis because I never liked the pick to begin with. I never thought he was that good coming out of college. And yeah, he had one really good start against Atlanta, but then he has been horrible ever since. And I don't want to see him play again for my favorite team because I think that he's terrible as a quarterback. Now, I don't know what that means for him, the person, because, hey, you could be an amazing person to be terrible at quarterback, right? Like most of us would be terrible at quarterback. Um,
Or there are people that are great quarterbacks, and you know we can question the character of the person. I know some that were even arrested on the top of their careers.
right, right. Green Bay will know something about great quarterbacks who are questionable morally.
Atlanta too.
Atlanta, too. Um, Yeah, or Green Bay specifically, though. I mean, granted, Aaron Rodgers hasn't committed any crimes, at least, while Brett Favre probably has. But
I was talking on one certain quarterback that you
Michael Vick,
know, yeah, him.
yeah. But in any case, it's over for Will Levis. The Cam Ward era is upon us. You're never going to see number 8 go out there again, and thankfully, we're all better off for it as Tennessee Titans fans.
Yeah, it's a shame that he is going out. I mean, after that, he is definitely gonna bounce, team to team, get maybe an opportunity in the practice squad or as a backup, or. But I don't see him as a, you know, he's on the level. I don't think of a Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Fitzpatrick, war like a bridge quarterback or like uh, you know, uh, like a quarterback, provisional quarterback.
100%. I mean, he's going to be a roster filler, and like he'll be on rosters because he has experience, and NFL teams love experience. But yeah, Levis is not good. So bring on Cam Ward, and I do think the Titans need to sign another quarterback because we only have Brandon Allen and Tad Boyle behind them. So if something happens to Cam Ward, the Titans will not be winning any games. I'm just telling you that right now. We're probably not winning much anyway with Cam Ward this year, but hey, at least there's reasons to be hopeful and excited, maybe. Okay. Speaking of the NFL, let's move on to our next division. We're going east this time. The AFC East. The defending champions here, of course, are the Buffalo Bills. They've been really running this division for a while at this point. I think they're at 5, 6 straight years winning this division. Like, I mean, this has been since Josh Allen has really emerged as the guy in Buffalo and has emerged as a superstar.
Yeah,
They
because it kind of overlapped the downfall of the New England Patriots and the rise of the Josh Allen's Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, it's 5 straight years. So they've won every year this decade. So I guess start with the Buffalo Bills. We know what they have, right? We know Josh Allen. We know McDermott. That we know Sean McDermott. We know that obviously they're going to be a really good team. But we all know the narrative when it comes to Buffalo Bills. They can't beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Now they did beat the Baltimore Ravens at least to get to the AFC title game, but man, they just completely blundered another chance to make it to the Super Bowl. Guys, for Buffalo, I mean, what else could they possibly do to get over that hump? I mean, like they're running into a brick wall year after year after year. And as bad as the Titans are, I feel like being a Bills fan would be worse.
I mean, you're constantly feeling that it's there for you to grab. The feeling of a champion, especially after losing 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s, and now having this era of tremendous quarterback winning the division 5 straight times, but out of those 5 times, you're losing to the same team 4 times and out of those 4 times, two in the AFC Championship.
100%. Now, when you look at the team around Josh Allen, right? Of course, Josh Allen recorded over 40 touchdowns last year, 4,300 yards. Um, Now, they did add Joshua Palmer in the receiver room. Should be a decent sign. Of course, he's been playing with the Chargers. Of course, it feels like when you look at the receivers for the Bills, they're kind of been, ever since Stephon Diggs left, they've been kind of receiver by committee. So the question is, can someone emerge as the wide receiver guy for Josh Allen, or do they really even need a true WR1 to truly succeed in Buffalo? Because it seemed like they still ran pretty well last year. They still operate at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, but the question is, how long Bills fans and the Bills front office are gonna keep Sean McDermott as a head coach despite failing in the big spot, in the big moment in the AFC playoffs.
Right. And this is where, honestly, where I think it probably comes down to your defense, right? Like when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, we saw how Philadelphia really was able to frustrate them. They cracked the code. You have to pressure Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is not infallible. When you get pressure on him, he can get inaccurate. He can get willy nilly. It's when you allow him to set down and get into a rhythm, that's when he's unstoppable. Um, and really, when you look at what Buffalo brought in this offseason with Michael Hoach at defensive end, they also brought in Joey Bosa as well. Like, those are some guys that can really get after the quarterback. And that's what they're going to need if they're going to come in and play at a high level and win. Now, the question is, do they have anything to worry about within the division?
Uh, I don't. I mean, maybe Miami. I mean, for the last 3 years, Miami has been the one team that really put pressure on Buffalo, especially 2 years ago, where they had um, split division. I mean, Buffalo won the division by the
Week 18 game.
yeah, because of a week 18 game. But for the last 3 seasons, Miami has been the runner-up in this division. Of course, last year, uh, Miami didn't even came close. Although all three AFC teams, not named Buffalo Bills, they were having losing seasons.
Mhm.
And so I think Buffalo is going to be the front runner in this division. I don't see Miami being as good as they were 2 years ago. And of course, New England and the Jets are. It feels like in this decade they are in the perpetual rebuild.
Right. Well, when you look at Miami, I mean, clearly the number one issue here is it is it reasonable to think that Tua Tagovailoa is never going to be as good as he possibly can be because of the injury issues? Um, because to me, it seems like we could be at a point where we have to be cognizant of the fact that he may not have that much time left in the league.
I
If
mean,
he
last year we were questioning his status as a football player because of all the concussions he got.
100%. Now, I will be transparent. I just traded for him in Dynasty because, you know, there's a chance he has some time left. But I think he's going to have to be very quick with the football, really limit the amount of hits he gets. Because if he can stay healthy, Miami can be really, really good. They still have Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill had an adventurous year last year, to say the least. I mean, from opening day getting arrested to just all kinds of off the field nonsense. I mean, he was a mess last year. Hopefully, the Tyreek Hill's got himself back under control a bit and can refocus and recenter on football because you put him and then Jalen Waddle on the other side. Jalen Waddle knows a consistent guy, and they went and got Westbrook Akine. And Nick Westbrook Akine, frankly, has been one of the most consistent pieces on the Tennessee Titans the past couple of years. And this is by far his best situation he's been in as wide receiver free. And, he's not going to have to be the guy because you're next to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They still have Johnny Smith. Obviously, you got Devon Achane in the backfield. I mean, the Dolphins, frankly, I like their skill room more than I like Buffalo's skill room. The difference is, I do think Josh Allen is that big of a difference from Tua because, one, I know he's durable. It's a lot harder for him to get hurt. And even when both are healthy, let's be real, Tua has looked great at times. But there is a question of, was it Tua that was great or was it Mike McDaniel's system that was great?
Yeah, that was gonna ask. Like, I would, be interesting to see Josh Allen under Mike McDaniel.
That would be crazy, wouldn't it? I mean, it's like with the 49ers, right? Like how good is Brock Purdy actually versus Kyle Shanahan? And Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel came from Kyle Shanahan, you know?
Yeah, but of course, the Brock Purdy camp will say, "Oh, but he had Trey Lance, he had, um, oh my God, the guy he used to be in New
Oh,
England.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, Garoppolo, Trey Lance, and all those guys didn't work. And
Garoppolo
Brock,
went to the Super Bowl though as a starter.
yeah, but so did Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right about that. I mean, but and I would argue that Purdy played a lot better than Garoppolo did in that Super Bowl, in their comparable Super Bowls. Uh,
Yeah, it came down to the wire. I mean, we
right.
all remember that last play in overtime.
Yeah. Now, the Patriots, as you mentioned, obviously they used to run this division a long time ago. Now, Tom Brady is in the commentator booth, I guess, still searching for a new wife, still at this point. And then Bill Belichick has found a new woman who's 50 years younger than him in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We'll get to him, I guess, next week when we go into the ACC previews.
I
But
mean, it's still crazy to me that we're gonna do an ACC preview and the name Bill Belichick is gonna be mentioned.
right.
Why?
And how much of that North Carolina conversation is going to be about the football team, or how much of it is going to be trying to psychoanalyze what in the world Bill Belichick is doing with Jordan Houston? you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
that duo, it's something else.
it really is. It's crazy that Bill Belichick's just flexing on Tom Brady like that right now in his career, at this point in his career. But in any case, all right. But their old team, the New England Patriots, they have a young quarterback now in Drake May, who had a pretty good rookie year. He was pretty good, and now he has no one else but Mike Vrabel as his head coach. And Vrabel is a really good head coach. He did very well in Tennessee. I don't think we should have fired him. I was interested when we did just to see what direction we would go. But seeing the performance of Brian Callahan, it's like I'm not. I don't think it was the right decision by the Tennessee Titans. But then again, that's what happens when you have Amy Adams Strunk as your owner and she doesn't know what she's doing. So, Vrabel's come out and said, "I think we can win the AFC East in year one." So I don't agree, but I do think that Patriots will be a lot better. I think this will be the best Patriots team since the end of the Belichick era.
Better than the 2021 that made the playoffs.
Well, I mean, that was still Belichick because Belichick was coaching still with Mac Jones.
That's no, yeah, yeah. I of course I think Mike Vrabel was the obvious choice. He should have been picked even before the. He should have been picked literally after Belichick left. I don't know why that didn't make that choice back then, but I think as you point out perfectly, uh, Vrabel did a terrific job in Tennessee. That 2021 season, uh, of course, was the oh my God, what could have been if one for the blunder in that Cincinnati game at home. But I think New England. I mean, I guess there's still interesting quarterback battle, even though Drake May is a front runner. But I guess Joe Milton can be considered.
Yeah, it's just hard to say, right? Because to me, like my position on it is the Titans would be better off if they still had Mike Vrabel as head coach. He's by far the best coach that the Titans have had since moving to Nashville. He was better than Jeff Fisher and better than any of the other the nincompoops we have had. Now Brian Callahan has a chance to prove himself with an actual quarterback this year, so I'm not completely out on Brian Callahan, but man, last year certainly did not leave a good taste in my mouth. But I do hope that that was more Will Levis being terrible.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are gonna have to transition because they're all about defense. So, and I think um, you know, I don't think they're gonna be what they've been in the past, the 4-13, 4-13. I think they're gonna be an improvement. I see them as a 8-9 kind of team.
Right now, the forgotten team in the AFC East at this point, the New York Jets, the Jets. Man, they tried the last 2 years. They really thought they had something with Aaron Rodgers, and didn't work to say the least.
Do you know the last time the Jets had a winning season? I'm not saying even going making the playoffs. A winning season,
2015.
2015, and they came close to making that playoffs. They lost in the last week. I remember vividly that season. That was my prime New York Jets year. I remember beating the Patriots, beating the Giants, and losing to all teams. Buffalo and the Pittsburgh Steelers find themselves in the playoffs because of that in the wild card.
Yeah, I remember that. Just Ryan the Fitz magic was
Oh,
that.
Fitzmagic.
Man, that was just a legendary run. But after the Aaron Rodgers debacle of the last 2 years, we're moving on from Devontae Adams. We're starting over with Justin Fields. So it didn't go well in Chicago for Fields. The question is how much of that was on him, how much of that was on the coaching that we saw in Chicago. So just be real, the coaching in Chicago the past decade has not been good. Like it's not. There's been no good coaches in Chicago. And Fields, to me, felt like he barely got a chance in Pittsburgh. Whenever he wasn't playing in Pittsburgh, I thought he was better than Russell Wilson, but he didn't get a fair chance. So now he's in New York. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Brees Hall. So you have talent on this roster. But is it enough? Do we think that Justin Fields has an elite quarterback so more within him that we haven't seen yet?
And funny, this new era of Aaron Glenn as a new head coach. I mean, there's going to be a swift change because uh, Robert Sala definitely didn't work. I mean, defensive coordinator out of San Francisco. He was fired mid-season. Then Jeff Ulbrich ended up finishing the year, and now we have Aaron Glenn. Of course, um, he was brought up because of being a good defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. I mean, I guess the New York Jets, Woody Johnson like to find the the hottest NFC defensive coordinator and get him a head coaching job.
Yeah, well, Woody Johnson's more worried about getting a foreign consulship than running the New York Jets, and that's kind of one of the big issues with the Jets and why they haven't made the playoffs now in nearly 15 years. Um, Now the Jets are once again they have great defensive talent. Quentin Williams, Sauce Gardner. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like enough. I mean, as we kind of hinted at the top of this feels like this is Buffalo's division to lose. But I do think there's a scenario where all three of their opponents in Miami, New England, and New York are all better.
I think it's gonna be kind of like 2024, but I would change. I think it's gonna be Buffalo going 12-5. Miami, I see them as a 8-9 team. The Patriots, actually, I see them as a 7-10, and the Jets gonna be 4-13.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bills are winning Division Two, probably 12, 13 wins. But I'm going to be higher on the Dolphins. And I'm higher on the Patriots than I think you are. I think the Dolphins are, to me, have a very good shot of being a wild card team. I think the Patriots have an outside shot of being a wild card team. The Jets probably not in playoff contention, but I think the Dolphins, if Tua can stay healthy, and that's a big if he can stay healthy and return to his 2023 form, I think the Dolphins have something to say this season. At least they better have something to say, or otherwise, I think there's going to be some conversations had in Miami about, what exactly the future looks like there. But I guess that is Division 3 of the NFL. And now, Gus, it is time to dive into some college football previews. We are just a little bit over a month from the first college football games in Ireland. And actually, the first big college football game of the season is a Big 12 game, Gus. Kansas State versus Iowa State, Farmageddon in Dublin on August the 23rd. And that game is very significant because both of those teams have conference championship aspirations this season. They both think they can win the conference and make it to the conference title game. But I kind of want to reverse back and talk about last year's champion of the Big 12, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Gus, I went back at some point last season or like this off season because sometimes I'll go back and listen to our old episodes just to see what we were saying about what we were predicting, what we were thinking. And I went back and listened to our Big 12 preview at one point. I don't think we talked about Arizona State in that preview last year. If we did, we may have talked about them for 30 seconds. And basically, I was like, I don't think they're going to be any good. Not concerned about it. But here they were on New Year's Day taking Texas to double overtime. And frankly, they should have beaten Texas in the Peach Bowl, Gus. Arizona State, to me, was the shock of the season last year. I mean, people talk about Indiana being shocking, and they were. SMU, I wasn't that surprised, honestly, because, they had such an easy schedule. Arizona State came out of nowhere, to me, to not only win the Big 12, but then to – because remember, Indiana got smoked by Notre Dame. SMU got smoked by Penn State. Arizona State proved they belong in that dance last year.
Yeah, and especially when you arrive in a new uh, in a new conference, you always tend to be more less optimistic. And they came to the Big 12, you know, kicking the door, winning the conference, and as you point out, taking the former Big 12 champion, the Texas Longhorn, down to the wire. So, and that was in big part by their head coach, which Kenny Dulligan, uh, was not he did not had a first good season, but then last year they came out strong.
Right. Only 35 years old. He's the youngest coach in the FBS. He went to Arizona State. That's a guy with a new vision. That's a guy with a new energetic vision. And for a school like Arizona State, that's what you need. Like it really it flies in the face of what they were doing before, right? Like because before they were hiring Herm Edwards and doing these retread hires, and to me, they made the mistake that what I think North Carolina is doing now with Bill Belichick. Why are you constantly going for these older guys who are only NFL when you need to go young? You need to go energy. And Kenny Dillingham was that, especially with what he did for for Sam Levitt, a quarterback last year. Sam Levitt had a very, very good season. Of course, we all know that the engine of Arizona State last year was Cam Scatabo. Now, Scatabo is gone. He's with the Giants now. But they brought in Kanye Udo, who was a running back for Army last year, which I don't know how he got out of the U.S. military, but hey, that's a story for another day. I guess NIL supersedes that now. But hey, Kanye Udo is a very, very good running back. And you look at the Arizona State team, they didn't lose much else besides that. This is a team that returns a lot, and they're going to be really competitive. But the thing about Arizona State now is they are not going to be overlooked because everyone knows not to underestimate Arizona State. So, who are those threats to Arizona State to take them out on this, in this conference? So, I referenced this a minute ago. The first game of the year is Kansas State versus Iowa State. And to me, that game is so important because it sets the tone for both teams this year. And of course, Iowa State made the Big 12 title game last year and got absolutely smoked. And for Matt Campbell, this is a guy that has been rumored to go to different places over the years. Like I remember when USC was looking for a coach, he was rumored to go there, and he just didn't. Right? He stayed put in Iowa State. He stayed put in Ames, very similar to a PJ Fleck in Minnesota, where they just didn't leave. Because I think for guys like that, I think they understand that, a place like Iowa State, you can stay there forever and win, 7, 8 games more years with the occasional pop year because those places aren't football powerhouses.
Yeah, I think Iowa State had a feeling of almost being in the Big 12 last year was crazy. I mean, we have 4 teams, up fighting for the conference. I mean, even Colorado had at some point a shot of taking the Big 12. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like right now, out of the 4 conferences in college football, is the most even one. Is the most. I mean, fans talk about parity. The Big 12 has parity.
You're absolutely right about that. And if you want to see some good parity, I said that Farmageddon in Dublin's going to be that. I mean, we got Rocco Beck with Iowa State versus Avery Johnson, a guy who I really wanted in the transfer portal after Nico left for UCLA at Tennessee. That game's so massive for both of those teams. Whoever wins that game is going to have a shot. Now, in terms of other teams that I think are dangerous, I'm telling you this right now, and this is going to be just a spoiler alert. This is my pick to win the entire conference. Texas Tech. I think that we look at Texas Tech, what they have at Brand Morton, what they have with the pieces surrounding him, the guys like Reggie Virgil on the outside. They've got so much talent on defense. And like Texas Tech, we normally think of Texas Tech as a team that stinks on defense, but they have spent a lot of money on that side of the ball. When you look at
I
the
mean,
NIL,
they literally just got uh, uh, a 4-star defensive lineman, $5.1 million to commit.
exactly. I mean, they just opened a $242 million football center as well. Like they have decided that if you look at Texas Tech, like they just paid their superstar softball pitcher $1 million as well. Like Texas Tech has decided, you know what, we're done being the redheaded stepchild of Texas Longhorns, the Texas A&M Aggies. We want to prove we can compete too. We want to prove that we can spin too.
Because outside of that magical year with Mike Leach, they haven't done much. Because of course, Texas Tech will always remember Rooney, the Longhorns 08 season.
100%.
That
Yes.
that game down in Lubbock. But and I think that reflects also that the state of Texas in college football is going to be more dominated than ever because NIL. Texas has money. Not only the Longhorns. I mean, you have the Texas Tech, Houston, SMU, Texas A&M. I mean, Texas schools are able to get the money from NIL because of a state that has, you know, oil money basically and energy money.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see if Texas Tech has any semblance of a defense, right? If they're able to make it work on defense. Like, think about the sky being the limit for Texas Tech if they are able to have a defense, at least in the Big 12. It won't be easy, right? Because you got a team like Baylor, for example, who I think is also really, really good. Like Dave Aranda at one point last year was probably on the hot seat, but they survived because he got hot. The team won like the last 7 games. Sawyer Robinson is a very, very good quarterback. And Baylor has a huge opportunity in week 1. They host in Waco Auburn in a game that's massive for Hugh Freeze in Auburn because we're going to talk
I
about
think
Auburn
for
in a few
both.
weeks.
I think for both. I mean, if it's a battle for making a season somewhat optimistic, because um, yeah, I think it's gonna be probably one of the most overlooked, but one of the most interesting um, games in week 1.
Hmm. Yeah. And also not to mention Baylor's um, arch rival TCU. I mean, of course, TCU a few years ago, they lost 65-7 in the national title game. We haven't really heard from them since. They lost that classic week 1 game to Colorado, the first game of Shador and Travis Hunter. We haven't heard from them since. But TCU had an okay season
I
last
mean,
year.
after the losing Max Derman, of course, was kind of hard.
Right. And for it's weird when you look at what their coach has done, right? Yes, he made the national title game, Sonny Dykes in 2022. But, can you really count him as a success? Because he hasn't been consistent. Like he had one magic season and really nothing else has happened.
I mean, last year they came somewhat close of winning their conference. I mean, they went 6-3 in conference play. I mean, of course, overall 9-4. It's seen as compared to what they did in 2022 below. But I mean, TCU is a program that always feels like the shine sporadically. I mean, they had that. I think it was 2011 as well. They were snubbed by the back then the BCS.
Yeah, and I think one thing too to keep in mind about TCU as well, a massive game for them is when they host SMU, the battle for the Iron Skillet. Because you remember last year, TCU, they were making fun of having to play on the CW and like, oh, you're in the ACC, and we don't think you're a respectable program. And then SMU came out and beat them by 30. It was truly an embarrassing moment for TCU last year. So now they get to host SMU this year in the battle for the Iron Skillet. And really for TCU, the SMU and the Baylor games are two big arch rivals, are their two most important games. They got to at least split those, if not win both.
Yeah.
And those games are definitely massive. I mean, all three. Well, I'm also forgetting about Houston. And I'll say this: I don't expect Houston to be a title contender, but they got Connor Wegman as quarterback now in Houston. He's the former Texas A&M quarterback, and he got benched last year. They've got some other really good talent down there, especially their tight end Tanel Kozel. He was the former tight end from Ball State, and I really like Willie Fritz, their coach, a lot. He used to be the coach at Tulane. And Houston went 4-8 last year, but they beat like Utah, they beat TCU. They had some really nice wins. And actually, I did a schedule preview of them the other day. I have Houston going 7-5. I think they improve by 3 wins this year. So I expect the Cougars to be a lot better this season. Maybe not great in 2025, but I think they're taking those steps because Houston, I think, has the potential to be a very competitive program. And we see in basketball, they were a shot away from winning a national title in basketball. Like the University of Houston can compete. in major sports. I mean, football is going to take a little bit longer, but I mean, they have unquestioned dominance over Houston. I mean, Rice is a joke. I mean, Rice is just Vandy, but in Texas, and they don't do anything. So Houston can compete at a very top level.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we talk about one season kind of wonder. I still remember Houston as that magical 2015 season that they at some point were considered for the college football playoff.
Right. And the one undefeated they beat was it Auburn that year, or was it Florida State? I think they beat Florida State. And that, yeah, they beat Florida State that year. And of course, UCF was a team that beat Auburn.
Yeah, speaking of which, UCF is in the Big 12.
Yep.
I guess they're going to be in the bottom again.
Yeah, they're going to be one of the worst teams. Now they have Scott Frost back.
Wow, what a turn of events!
Yeah, I mean he is coming back. He ditched UCF to go to Nebraska, his alma mater, and we all know how that worked. It didn't work for whatever reason. It just didn't work in Lincoln. Like they kept on losing close game after close game, and it just never worked. So now he's back in UCF, and you're back in the Big 12, and I just don't know if this is truly going to work a second time. Granted, there was some sort of hang up in the there, but I do think it could be maybe a little different in UCF, but I don't specifically expect him to be very good. You want to know who else is back, Gus, at their former school? Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia.
That's so 2007.
Yeah, let's reround the clock here. So West Virginia is a game away on December 2nd, 2007, or December 1st, 2007, whatever day it was. The last Saturday of the season. They're hosting 3-8 Pittsburgh, or is it 4-7 Pittsburgh? One of those. Pittsburgh with a losing record in the backyard brawl. All they have to do is win as a free touchdown favorite, and they get to go to the national title game. But they lose 13-9. They missed their one shot at the national title game. And then because they missed the national title game, and that allowed LSU to back into the national title game, Les Miles doesn't go to Michigan as intentionally planned. So Rich Rodriguez goes to Michigan. He fails there. Goes to Arizona, has an okay season or two, but ultimately gets fired there. Goes to Jacksonville State, has a really good run there. And West Virginia's tired of Neil Brown, so they fire him after last year. Because remember, they had a lot of hype heading into last year, but lost to Penn State early, then lost to Pittsburgh, and they just never recovered from that. So now Rich Rod is back in Morgantown, and I think they're going to be awful this year. They lost basically everyone from last year outside of their running back. I think their offense will be a work in progress. I think their defense is not good at all. I mean, their defense was the lowest ranked unit in the Big 12 last year. And I don't think they got better this offseason.
Yeah, I think as well. I think there was a kind of one of the most disappointing seasons in the Big 12. And I think, it always is a safe place to always revert back to the past. We just talk about, UCF with Scott Frost and now Rich Rodriguez even more because Scott Frost, of course, had the magical 13-0 season, the unclaimed national title or whatever that was. But Rich Rodriguez was one game away from playing the actual national title game back in 07. So it's always interesting of choice. But one school I want to talk about in terms of letting go of the past, Oklahoma State. When is it time to say, Mike Gundy, thank you for your services. You were a tremendous football coach. We came close in being the national title game back in 2011. We probably got screwed by the BCS, but now it's time to go.
I mean, last year just made no sense for them, Gus. Like, how did 3-9 happen with the roster that they have with having Ollie Gordon? How does that happen? I mean, and it was really an important year too.
0-9. They went 0-9 in conference play.
Exactly. It's the first year where OU left you, so there's an element of, oh, we got dumped by our big brother who went to the SEC. Oklahoma wasn't good last year either, but still, Oklahoma at least made a bowl game. Like Oklahoma State was just a disaster. Now, to be fair, the one thing I can give Oklahoma State as a Tennessee guy, they did beat Arkansas. We did not beat Arkansas. But that's the only thing I can give them because otherwise it was a disaster. And of course, their last game of the year, they lost 52-3 to Colorado. So I don't know. That team just kind of gave up last year. You have to wonder if Mike Gundy is ways in the modern era because he's not really a big transfer portal guy, not a big NIL guy. I do think that holds Oklahoma State back to an extent.
Yeah, uh, I think it's a poor version of what Clemson is doing. I think you have to embrace this kind of new way of doing businesses in college football. Being uptight doesn't make you uh, because the fan is all about the carries winning, not try to be this kind of uptight or proud, trying to make things from the past.
Right. But I will say this. I mean, you can either be completely like trying to stick to the past or just completely execute tradition entirely. Let's go straight up transfer portal. And that's where we get to Colorado on the other side of the spectrum. And Deion Sanders doesn't really seemingly believe in high school recruiting all that much. I mean, it's a full on transfer portal team, which means who knows what Colorado's really going to be this year. Now, you've got Caden Salter along with Julian Lewis, two really talented quarterbacks. And Colorado is good at skill position now. They're not going to replace Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is a once in a generation athlete. Like, you're not replacing that. Can you replace Shador's production? Probably not. Shador was a very, very good pocket passer. And Caden Salter's more of a mobile, scrambling type quarterback. Now, I do like some of the pieces Colorado has. A defense, I think, outside of losing Travis Hunter, like I do think they have a little bit more depth there. And offensive line might be slightly better. But, I'm not very high on Colorado. I feel like last year, this year will be a significant regression just because you're not going to have a generational talent bailing you out like they did last year.
Yeah, I think Deion Sanders. I was surprised that he ended up sticking to Colorado. I thought he was going to leave. Of course, not for the Cleveland Browns because his son's there. But I thought he was like, okay, I coached my son in college. I'm done. No, I guess he's there for the long run in Boulder.
Yeah. And hey, more power to him. He's serious about what he's trying to do. I'm just not sold in what he's trying to do. Someone else I'm not sold on what he's trying to do is Brent Bohannon down in Tucson with Arizona. Last year was awful. I mean, Arizona was really good under Jazz Fish before he left them to go to Washington. Last year was horrible for Arizona. Arizona had so much hype heading into the year with Noah Thifta and Tet McMillan. Of course, Tet McMillan now is with the Carolina Panthers. Arizona had no defense last year. None at all. Their offense was mediocre. And Arizona got significantly worse this offseason. So I just think it's going to be a bad year for the Wildcats. Also, I'm not high on Cincinnati as well. I think Scott Satterfield's not a good head coach. I think they're going to be mediocre at best. Trying to think, who else have we not talked about? Kansas. I actually do like Kansas this year. I have them going. I believe it was 7-5 that I picked them.
Yeah, Kansas under Lance Leopold always felt like they could have been achieving more than they were.
Yeah, one game to watch out there. Kansas plays at Missouri week 3.
Oh
So
my God,
a
that's gonna be.
reignition of the border war.
And all and again back to that '07 season. That game had national title implications.
Yes. Now, I don't think it's going to have national title implications this season, But I do say, when I was looking at Kansas the other day, there's a chance if they get on a roll, they could be one of those teams that you don't expect to be in the conversation at the end of the year, that's in the conversation at the end of the year. Also, hey, well, how did I forget the Utah teams? Oh my! So the full disclosure, guys. So I did a Utah football preview a few weeks ago on TikTok. Utah and BYU fans are still arguing on it.
Wow, so you're not really popular down in Salt Lake City.
Well, I'm even less popular in Gainesville these days. But I picked Florida to lose at Kentucky. But in any case, and that did not go over well in Gainesville. But it's been an interesting offseason for both Utah and BYU, right? Because Utah, a lot of people expected them to come into the Big 12 and compete immediately, and they completely fell apart last year. They had no offense. Cam Rising couldn't stay healthy. He's finally gone from Utah, and I think that's for the best because they were stuck in this limbo with him of all the injuries. And then you have BYU, who doesn't really know who their quarterback is because of the whole Jake Retzlaff situation and how he broke the honor code so that he had to be kicked out, and it's just Utah and BYU. I don't think either one of those teams are going to compete for the title this season. But in terms of which one's going to be better between the two, I'm not sure. Because I trust Kyle Whittingham to put a good team on the field in Utah, and for whatever reason, that just didn't happen last year.
Yeah, I mean BYU was on the top of their conference. I mean they went 11-2, but at the end of the day, it wasn't enough.
Right, and also BYU's coach Satani, I think it is. He's obviously really good as well. So, yeah, I think I know there's 18 Big 12 teams now. I think we've hit all of them. Because yeah, we have hit all of them. Talk about both of the Kansas schools, Iowa State, all four of the Texas schools, Oklahoma State, Colorado, the two Utah schools, the two Arizona schools, West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF. I mean, it's just too big of a conference, realistically, to truly be fair. Like 18 teams is way too big. And the Big 12 as a whole right now, to me, feels like the misfits of college football. These are all the programs that really want to be a power program, but they have no room elsewhere.
I mean, if it's so funny, like you watch old videos of college football talk about the Big 12, like if somebody from the 90s came to 2025 and see the Big 12, they'd be like, "What? No Texas, no Oklahoma, no Nebraska."
Right. All their top tier powerhouse teams have left, and you're left with all these other teams. But all these other teams, are not teams to be forgotten about. Like Arizona State proved to us last year that you can't just ignore these teams. These teams are good enough to compete in the right circumstance.
But the question is Arizona State another one season wonder? Because you have a lot of one season wonders in
Right.
this Big 12 new era. Kansas had a one season wonder. Cincinnati one season wonder. TCU has one season wonder. I mean, a lot of those were like one season. They were
Cincinnati did that before they joined the Big 12.
But they no. I'm not saying I'm not saying while they were in the Big 12. I'm saying all those teams at some point in their history had one moment they truly shined, but then they went back to average and mediocrity.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Which begs the question: who could be that surprise team this year? I mean, I kind of hinted at it earlier. I think Texas Tech to me just feels like that team this year. If I had to go and put money down on a team to win the conference, to me it feels like it's going to be Texas Tech. I just think they have the best roster this year. I think that's a team that has a lot of momentum heading into this year. In terms of who I think they play in the Big 12 title game, I honestly think it's going to be all Texas. Give me Baylor. Texas Tech versus Baylor for the Big 12 title.
Mine's going to be Arizona State against Texas Tech, but Texas Tech ended up winning it.
Okay. I think any of those are fair. And there's all kinds like Kansas State, Iowa State. Um, like there's several teams that could win this conference. Probably about 4 to 5, maybe Kansas if everything goes right. Of course, BYU if they're able to figure out the quarterback situation really quickly. Colorado if the talent hits. Utah if they remember how to play football. Like there are several teams that can win this thing. TCU could win this thing. Now, in terms of national title potential, I don't know if any of these teams have that. Of course, you got to remember, too, the playoff seeding is different this year. So the top 4 seeds are not all going to be conference champions. So the Big 12 champion, more than likely, will have to play in the first round. It may have to play on the road. And
Finally, that's something they got it right.
yeah, they had to do that. Also, the question is, do we think the Big 12 can get more than one team in? And what would
Uh,
that, and like, if there were a scenario, like, would we have to have a situation where maybe, let's say, somehow both of the conference championship participants are undefeated heading into the title game? And maybe, obviously the champion gets in at 13-0 and the loser gets in at like 12-1 or something. I feel like it would take something like that and chaos in the other conferences. But I don't see how that's going to happen in this conference.
Yeah, like it's gonna be like a kind of scenario that you described to something like that would have happened because they, as we picked, they are the fourth in terms of strength of conference right now.
Now, I think from top to bottom, honestly, I think the Big 12 is probably stronger than the ACC, but I think the ACC has better teams at the top.
Yeah,
Is the way I would say it. Now, I think the middle of the Big 12 is better than the middle of the ACC, but I don't think the top of the Big 12 is better than the top of the ACC. But I do think the Big 12 will be very entertaining to watch.
as they always are.
Yeah. And hopefully the Big 12 sticks around and don't let the SEC and Big 10 bias get you down. All right. Next week will be the ACC. One more college football note here. The AAC has decided to change their name back to just the American Conference, and they unveiled a new logo, which, okay, like I was calling them the American to begin with. So I don't know why they felt like they had to come out and announce this change. It's a cool logo. I'll give them that. So, but like the American in general, and obviously at some point I want to talk about the G5 conferences because clearly there's 2 big ones where I expect someone, because remember someone from the G5 has to make the playoffs. Last year was a Boise State from the Mountain West. Of course, the American, you have like Tulane and Memphis would be the most likely out of those conferences. So, we'll see who makes it out of there.
And speaking of, we just had a Big 12 preview and we talk about the American, the AAC, the American Conference. One news that I found interesting: the Memphis Tigers. We, as Tennessee basketball fans, we tend to kind of have an intense rivalry in basketball, especially because of Kenny Pickett, not because of Penny Hardaway.
Oh, yes.
They failed their bid to join the Big 12, even though they had a $200 million proposal.
Because no one cares about Memphis basketball, Memphis sports, except when basketball is good. That's just the ultimate truth of Memphis. And Memphis tries to fans to act like they're a big program. You're not. You're like the 4th most relevant program in your own city. Tennessee is more relevant. Ole Miss is more relevant. Mississippi State and Arkansas, all more relevant in Memphis than the Tigers, except when Tigers basketball is good. Not even Tigers football. The Memphis made a P5 bowl at one point. Who cares? Who remembers? They lost to Penn State in the Cotton Bowl, I think. No one cares.
Yeah. It's of course they want to made that move following what the SMU did, ditching the American conference to go to the ACC. But SMU, even though they had way more controversy, they have somewhat interesting culture, especially in football.
Right, and there's just a lot of rich people who went to SMU.
Yeah,
So yeah. Anyway, quick MLB. They came back from All Star break, and the Braves, man, rough weekend because they should have won the series against the Yankees. They had an 8-0 lead or like a 5-0 lead on Saturday night, but completely fell apart. Lost 12-8. Ended up losing the entire series. Um, just and unfortunately, it doesn't look likely they're going to have a rally in the second half. That they did win tonight against the Giants, but I don't think a second half rally is going to happen here. Just too many holes in the roster. But they did unveil their uniforms for next week's game at Bristol Motor Speedway against Cincinnati, and they were pretty cool.
I mean, I'm excited about that. I'm just sad that game didn't happen while I was in US because that was such a brilliant idea. I mean, because I think the MLB is moving in the right direction, and having a baseball game in a motor speedway. I mean, look how you know, and I think college football should have another game at Bristol Motor Speedway because that 2016 team, that 2016 matchup between Tennessee and Virginia Tech. I mean, that was a game for the ages. I mean,
100%.
so the MLB made the right move. I think it's gonna the the fans are gonna show up. I mean, two historic brands, and I think there of course gonna be more Braves fans than Reds fans, but you know, Cincinnati is not that far uh, from Bristol,
Right.
and
And Cincinnati's better this year, too. So,
yeah, but I mean, the NL East. I mean, what a battle is going to be between the Philadelphia Phillies and New York Mets. I mean, the Mets ended up winning tonight against the Angels, and they looked like they're gonna lead the division tonight because the Phillies were losing to the Red Sox, but then they came down in Riley and won in extra innings against the Red Sox. So now the Phillies are a half game up against the Mets. I mean, the Mets just play one game more than the Phillies, and they ended up losing that game. They were both 57 wins. I mean, the Phillies have 43 losses, and the Mets 44. But I think it's going to be an intensive battle between those two. I think they're both going to make the postseason, but uh, I mean, it's going to be an intense battle for the National League East. Uh,
NL Central, too, is a half game, too. The Milwaukee Brewers have taken over that. And the Dodgers only have a 3-game lead in the West. I mean, all three of the NL divisions are so close.
I mean, the only division that are so, I mean, the difference are so big, and let's face it, is a division that the winner always goes by default to the playoffs is the American League Central. I mean, the American League Central, since the downfall of the Royals after they had that magical run in 2015 and being back to back years in the World Series. I mean, they never been, and of course they had the back then Cleveland Indians, now the Guardians, also run in the postseason and made it to the World Series in 2016 as well. But after that, the division never had some sort of relevance. I mean, the Tigers are leading the division by 10 games, and they lost 7 out of their last 10 games.
Yeah. And, the Blue Jays still hold on to the Yankees, but the Yankees had a massive weekend. I think being able to rally in Atlanta, if they ultimately win the AL East and come back to win it from Toronto, I think winning a series like that in Atlanta will be a big reason why they did. They showed a lot of fortitude to come back and win that series. And they still have the Red Sox still on their tail and the Rays still on their tail. Going to be a fun run to the end, I think, in the AL East. Also, watch out for the Seattle Mariners. I mean, they're sick. They've won 6 out of the last 10. They've pulled within 4 now of Houston.
Yeah, I think the I think it's gonna be interesting division battles. Um, But one team definitely that is really falling apart, and is we mentioned briefly, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, Paul Schemes. I mean, as you pointed out, he's at some point is going to be traded.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, today they actually won today, 3-0. Six strikeouts, one walk, three hits, no earned runs in 6 innings. I mean, this is his current stats right now, Gus. He's 5-8, but he has a 1.91 ERA and a 0.91 WHIP. I mean, those are elite Hall of Fame numbers, Gus. And he has a losing record.
Yeah, he's like when Giancarlo Stanton was playing in Miami. He was putting up phenomenal numbers in a team that is not having the core, the roster to be competitive.
Right. Just don't waste him. Yeah, he's one of the best pitchers I've ever seen. So
Yeah, hopefully he'll get out of there maybe next season.
yeah. So last American topic, Denny Hamlin won at Dover. That's his fourth win of the year. I mean, Hamlin, I mean, oldest guy in the garage, he just continues to dominate. It blows my mind how good he is at his age. And there's no signs of stopping. I don't know how many more chances he's going to have of winning a championship because he still hasn't won one, but he has 58 career wins. I'll be curious to see if he gets it done this season. NASC, they do return to the Indianapolis Oval this week. So they've been running the road course the past couple of years, but they're actually returning just to the straight up brickyard. It should be fascinating. I think with this car, it'll be pretty good. So I'm very interested to see what happens this weekend. Also, IndyCar drama, just on the side. So they have announced today they're not going back to Iowa Speedway because no one showed up to a race there 2 weeks ago. Like they had maybe 3,000 people for like an 80,000 seat stadium that NASCAR sold out last year. And it really just, to me, when it comes to IndyCar, outside of the Indy 500, it feels like no one cares about any of the other races. And I don't know what IndyCar does about that. You know, like your entire identity is one race. So that's just that's a hard place to be if you're IndyCar. But in any case, that's all I have for America. Guess
Eh,
how everything go ahead.
no, I was gonna say about IndyCar also. They tried international and didn't work. I mean, they went to Brazil back in early 2010s. They I they had some sort of gain in popularity, but they ended up not going back, and that's true. I mean, you cannot rely from one game or one track your entire identity. It's hard to find identity. It's I mean, and also they're running out of. They're in a transition mode where their big racers are retiring, and there's not new ones coming like the NBA. So that's a problem too, at least my
Absolutely.
opinion. But talking about here in Brazil, of course, soccer season going strong, and talk about our we can say beloved Rio Branco. No, 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 doing so well. Rio Branco still no wins at the Paulista Cup. We're down to week 6. No wins. They lost it again on the road, even though it was somewhat neutral field because Primavera, their opponent, they're from Indaiatuba, but their stadium being renovated because they got promoted to the first division of the state of São Paulo. So they had to play in the nearby city of Campinas in the Ponte Preta Stadium. So it was a pretty much a neutral field. But Rio Branco had another bad match, losing 1-0. Fans are mad. They want the GM gone, which I think it's a little bit of a reach. I think it's exaggerated, but they feel like the GM is arrogant and not delivering it, and it's a kind of over promise and under delivers. And this roster, it felt like it was gonna work because they had veteran players, especially with American identity like Diego Jussani and Iago Ramiro. Both had connections to Rio Branco and the city of Americana. They always wanted to play at Rio Branco. And also they had young players from Capivariano. They felt like they're a promising player, but it's one of those cases where the team chemistry, the team identity never clicked, never until right now. I mean, there are still 4 games to be played. They have a massive game on Saturday against 15 de Piracicaba, the team that beat Rio Branco 3-1. But there are a lot of off the field controversy with fans fighting. I mean, Rio Branco increased its ticket prices from visiting fans from 20 reais to 50 reais, so it was almost doubling the prices just to kind of retaliate of what happened to the game in Piracicaba.
That is so petty. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this game's gonna be. I'm even afraid to go by car on that game because of all the hostility is gonna be played between those two fan bases, and also because of how angry the Rio Branco fan base are with Rio Branco management. And let's see what's gonna happen on Saturday. It's gonna be interesting games. Game 2 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Brazil time. Hopefully, Rio Branco gets to win because the last time Rio Branco won was March 26th. The last time Rio Branco won a game, March
Wow.
26th, the second leg of the quarterfinals in the third division of the state of São Paulo. Since then, Rio Branco has lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games and tied 2 games, 6 losses and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses and
That's
two
yeah,
ties.
it might be time for you to get back in the booth.
Oh my god, Nick, that's the fifth or sixth person that already said that. It's literally crazy. People have been telling me all like for the past 2 weeks, like, oh my god, you gotta get back on the booth. I mean, I'm starting to believe that. I mean, I don't know. Should I ask Rio Bronco front office to go back to the booth? I mean, I'm really considering because you're not the first to talk about that.
I mean, look, I mean, obviously, I don't really believe in jinxes like that, but I
Yeah,
do think, I mean, clearly, I mean, there was a lot of when you were calling the games, it always seemed to be something magical that would happen. And now that we don't see those pop up anymore, it's like, well, maybe maybe there is something to that. I don't know. Who knows?
yeah, I know. My broadcasting does not affect their performance on the field. There's no correlation between those two. But I'm I'm starting to believe. I don't know. I might test. I might ask. I mean, I don't want to. I don't know. I'll think about it. It's so. Overall, my work, I love being on the field. I'm more connected than ever to the game itself. Having that prayer on the locker room. Go out on the field with the players. Be on the sideline. I've been loving that. Well, the only goal Rio Branco scored in the tournament, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it so much that I ended up falling on the field. So that was great.
Well,
And
yeah, because I'm looking for the WhatsApp group, and I'm just seeing like people live like middle finger emojis, clown emojis, the poop emoji,
the what?
like the poop emoji, like the crap emoji.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
love because like I know what's going on, even if I can't really read it because it's Portuguese. I know if it's good or bad based off of the emojis. Like I said,
And
one has like the hiding of monkeys emoji.
yeah, and what's funny is that when the team does bad, the fans even are mad with the PR because they're mad at everything. And since I'm a PR person from a soccer team that was a fan and then a broadcaster, fans tend to go after sometimes me. And yesterday the fans were like, "Where's the press conference? I want to watch the press conference." And I don't do it live. I recorded it and then posted it, but I never. And I even made the. I even asked. I told the fan they were like demanding. I was like, "Oh my god, thank you so much for being interested in my job. Not even my boss demands something like that from me." But I mean, that's so funny when things go bad. Even the communications department are in question. Last but not least, Brazilian Championship Week 15. We had a derby. São Paulo beat Corinthians 2-0. Corinthians still dealing with a lot of things on and off the field. Memphis Depay um, was subbed at halftime and did not stay on the bench to watch the game. He's being, of course, an ongoing controversy over not being paid some of the money that he was promised due to winning the São Paulo State Championship. And Corinthians just a mess. The interim president now opened an investigation over misspending of Corinthians money by some people inside the organization. I mean, it's a whole mess. And São Paulo, of course, winning the the derby now with more stable moment. It was the second game of their new head coach, the Argentinian head coach Hernan Crespo. So of course, when there's a derby, the one side it's a relief and happy, and the other side is all pressure. Um, Palmeiras won their first home game of the Brazilian Championship this season, 3-2 against Atlético Mineiro. And of course, Palmeiras is going to be a front runner, one of the teams to fight for the Brazilian title. And on the opposite end, Santos, even though they had a great performance last Wednesday against Flamengo, they dominated. They won 1-0. Neymar scoring was magical. On Saturday, all this magic disappeared. Mirassol beat Santos for. I mean, this Mirassol story is just getting more and more impressive. I mean, a city with a population of 65,000 people, according to the census, has a team in the Brazilian First Division, and now they face it all four big teams in the state of São Paulo: Corinthians, Palmeiras, São Paulo, Santos. They didn't lose. They tied with Palmeiras. They beat São Paulo, beat Corinthians, beat Santos. I mean, Mirassol
Leicester
is
City 2.0 right there.
the what? I,
Leicester City 2.0.
I don't I don't think it's gonna be that far because they're not gonna be competing for the Brazilian Championship. They're just I mean they're currently right now in seventh place. I mean this is gold. I mean this is just I mean I think for
They could
Mirassol,
compete for a Libertadores spot, you know?
yeah, that's I mean for I mean going to Libertadores for a Mirassol fan, it's just I mean what's funny is that Mirassol is just a small town in a region of a kind of big city called São José do Rio Preto. I mean, São José do Rio Preto is it's kind of like I mean, like it kind of compares like what is it? It's one small town near Chattanooga.
So small town, let's say like Dayton, like Dunlap.
Yeah, like kind of like Dayton around Chattanooga to me. And São José do Rio Preto has 500,000, 500,000 people living here. One of their stadiums are really big, holds 40,000 people. But it's so funny that over a span of 25 years, I mean, the two teams from São José do Rio Preto, they are in obscurity. Rio Preto, the green and white team, Rio Preto Football Club, they are in the same division as Rio Branco. They are not playing the Paulista Cup, so they're basically somewhat, trying to stay relevant, but in a lower division. And America of São José do Rio Preto, a team that was the main team in the city, in the region, I mean, playing in the first division of the state, they're not even playing professionally. They did not, they did not participate in the professional division, the fifth division in the state of São Paulo. They're playing only in the second division of the under 20 São Paulo State tournament. And sometimes it's so funny how a small town soccer team rises from an area of teams that are established and have tradition. And what's going to happen is, for example, if Mirassol ended up going to Sul-Americana or Libertadores, they might use that America big stadium that now sits empty most of the time. And a lot of teams that played against Mirassol or fans that go there, they ended up staying in São José do Rio Preto, which is basically a 20 to 30-minute drive. So how soccer logic is crazy.
Right. I mean, hey, it sounds like, hey, if things were to go right, maybe that's where Rio Bronco can be one day.
I mean, I wish, but there's got to be a new mentality. I mean, for you to be a Mirassol, a Novo Horizontino, you gotta be in the direction of SAF, a direction of getting rid of the old model of president and elections and council, and just go straight for business, having an ownership group, you know, put you know 10 because Mirassol and Novo Horizontino, they have owners, not presidents. That says something. Like you're not bound, to be, kind of hold hostage of political pressures. You're the owner. There's a long way to go, which is crazy that Rio Branco and Mirassol were basically playing the same division, same everything 10 years ago. And look how further apart they are right now. Really, really further apart. But I mean, kudos to Mirassol. I mean, being seven, they're the seventh best team in Brazil right now. That's unreal. That's surreal for a city of 65,000 people. I mean, it's surreal. It's impressive. I mean,
I can only imagine what their home games are like when these big teams come to town.
their crowd was electric on Saturday. I mean, of course, a lot of people show up to root for and against Neymar. I mean, Neymar drives crowds. I mean, he's a very popular soccer player, but they're living the dream. Even though Santos is in a relegation zone and has a below average to bad roster, it's still Santos with Neymar. And speaking of Santos, Alisson Dameto saying goodnight. He and hugs, sending hugs. He's definitely not happy with his teams, Rio Branco and Santos. He's definitely not happy. But I mean, uh, it's impressive. Yeah, look, say Big Nick Hill.
What's up?
Yeah. So for me, the story of this Brazilian championship, Mirassol, seventh place. I mean, on top of Fluminense, the team that went to the semifinals of the FIFA Club World Cup, Corinthians, on top of São Paulo, and last but not least, there's one winningless team in the Brazilian League, Sport Recife, that was promoted last year. 13 games, 3 ties, and 10 losses. So they are pretty much in the brink of being relegated, and they're still in 1/3 of the championship.
Well, at least they still have, I guess, time to go. But man, yeah, that Sport to Club de Recife, yeah, man, 3 points in 13
Yeah,
matches is crazy.
the fans weren't happy about it. They went to their training ground. They had a meeting with the players, saying, I mean, it's so crazy how fans in Brazil are so entitled, and they threaten the fans, saying, "Oh, I have a very I have interesting past. I have a police record, so watch out." They literally said
I
that,
can
Nick.
only America imagine if that could happen in America. I like,
Imagine imagine a Tennessee Titan group fans going up to the training ground of the Titans, training players for not doing so well, and say, "Hey, look, I have a police record, so you watch out."
crazy. To be fair, like if it could happen, it would happen in the SEC. Like, let's be real. There's probably a subsect of Vols fans that wanted to do that after we lost to Georgia State.
Yeah, I mean the closest thing to happen like that was the 2017 revolt with Greg Schiano. That was the closest thing to like this kind of Brazilian soccer scenario.
But even then, that feels minor compared to what happened there. Although we were successful in vetoing Greg Schiano. So, The only protest I'll ever take full credit for.
Yeah.
I guess that is all the time we have tonight. Our little bit over 2 hour run here on episode 190 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. That's Gus Tomazelli in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm Nick Hill, live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States. Thank you so much for watching the only American and Brazilian sports podcast, Two Americas, Two Countries.